Welcome to the Addiction Unfiltered show, like we're calling it. Why didn't we call it a podcast? Why are we calling it a show?
Because it's a show.
Because it's a show indeed. Anyway, so this is the second episode. And I think this really is a continuation of the last one. But before we continue, my name is Laura and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
My name is Isabella and I'm a recovering alcoholic. And we are going to be demystifying for you yet again another aspect of addiction today. Yeah. We're going to be keeping it real and raw as always by sharing our own personal experiences. But today we're talking about the addiction and recovery cycle, also known as, or very well known as, the Jellinek Curve.
Yeah, so the Jellinek Curve. But we're going to concentrate more on the addiction cycle. Right?
Yes.
We won't cross over to the recovery one. That's a topic for another day. But for now, this is because we're still continuing to define addiction, because remember, this is our Addiction Unfiltered, where we're demystifying addiction. And the first thing is always awareness, awareness, understanding, and just having more and more of these conversations so that there's just more awareness.
Yeah.
I know I've said awareness many times, but really, there just needs to be more awareness. Like, I have been asked the most ridiculous questions, and So it's one of the reasons why we're like, let's have this, where we can have these conversations, where we can be as open, vulnerable, and real, as possible, and share our personal stories. So that for whoever is out there that can relate, it doesn't have to take you as long as it took us, or it just doesn't have to get as bad. You can, like with the curve we're going to share, you can literally decide to jump off at any one point. I know I make it sound easy. It's not easy at all, of course, but at least, like I said, again, with awareness, you'll be able to recognize what's happening to you and make the decision. Easier than someone who doesn't even realize what's happening to them.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive into this part of the curve on the addiction side. And I'm going to start it off. So where it starts is a very safe place. Occasional relief drinking. Now, occasional relief drinking, really straightforward. Everyone has done it. It's about, you're stressed, you have a drink. You've lost someone, you have a drink. It's really just the one drink that you have because something is not sitting right, and you're just having a drink.
Yeah, you lost a bad deal, you drink.
Yeah.
Or, stress.
Bad breakup, drink.
Whatever it is, So there's really no big drink. This part is usually considered normal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then, unfortunately, it continues, right?
Yeah.
You see then with addicts, right? People who are addiction prone and everything we talked about in the previous episode, you start to experience an increase in alcohol tolerance, right? Or whatever substance tolerance. So where that relief drink would usually have been 2 drinks, 2 shots, 2 beers, whatever it is, or 1 blunt of weed, or 1, whatever, all the other drugs, whatever it is, it now becomes, for you to feel, to get that feeling of relief that you're looking for, it now becomes a whole bottle. It becomes 4 Long Islands or 5 Long Islands, where even 2 were just enough, to get that feeling. So that increase in tolerance starts to happen.
Yeah. And then you go, and right from that increase comes the constant relief drinking. So that's basically where you're now making up the excuses. You're now making up the need for relief because the tolerance has gone up and you need it more. So now it's about, it must happen constantly. You are, your pencil broke when you were trying to write in pencil. I am stressed. I must drink.
Yes, because now at this point, the body has realized, the whole reward system when it comes to habits. The body has realized that, okay, so when I get stressed, we get a drink. We get the other nice substance, the one that makes us all giddy. So let me create the stress. Let me, so everything, the road to my house is really bad. I cannot go through. I have to first wait for the dust to settle down. Let me stop by the bar. this thing at work, my boss is horrible, my life is what, my wife is this, if you
the
look for
printer
excuses,
didn't work in the office,
right? If you look for excuses in this world, you're always going to get it. And that's literally what happened. I mean, when I think about my own life, it would have to take, in the beginning, something really major for me to go on a binge,
Yeah.
But then after a while, it was just everything. Oh, my mom said this and that, and now I'm feeling like this. I can't believe this is my life. Oh, a whole binge. My son has turned out to be this, and this happened. The school did this, a whole binge.
Yeah.
So many things. Basically, the excuses multiplied, but really, those things were always there.
They were always there.
We just didn't feel the need to drink for them, but they were always there.
They were always there.
Yeah. So, and then it continues, to now that, you start to feel the urgency of the first drink, and many of these things we talk about jokingly. But then if you start to recognize it in even other people and yourself, like where, man, for you, that urgency is real. It's like,
it's real.
The whole day you're thinking of 5 p.m. to have that drink.
Yeah.
Or you're driving towards a wedding reception, and instead of thinking about, this couple,
so happy for them.
Here, so happy for them. You're thinking, my God, I can't wait to sit and have that drink.
That
you're even obsessed with that thing of, I don't like how they delay to serve drinks at receptions. Think about how many times people have had that conversation.
Like, why are they waiting? What are they waiting for? It's a Saturday.
Why does a couple have to first come in?
Yeah.
Then it becomes that's the thing you're talking about. That's what you're obsessing about instead of all the other nice things.
And I mean, and a few of these things, I'm sure by now you're thinking, okay, because especially that first drink one. I mean, I remember myself. In fact, we had a place we used to go all the time. And we became regulars, right? And most people who are active drinkers, you have that place. So I would call ahead of time to be like, I'm at the lights.
Yeah.
I'm going to be there in 2 minutes. Have my gin and tonic on the table, ice lemon on the side, waiting for me. As soon as I enter, I need to be holding that glass and just pouring it back. And it becomes normal.
Yeah. At this point, we're still just laughing about these things. Like, it's not a crisis.
Yeah, but then...
It doesn't seem to be.
It doesn't seem to be. Yeah. But then, in this way, you're now entering the stage of increasing your dependence on alcohol.
Yeah.
Because then now it becomes... So it's not yet at the point where it's all day, but you're living the day for that drink.
Yeah.
You're living the day for that
thinking about it.
For that substance. It's becoming a dependency on that substance, on this alcohol. You're starting to plan your days, your routes, nothing can deviate from that. I must first go and have my drink.
Yeah.
So you get increased dependency on the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start going down the slippery slope.
Mm-hmm.
So let's continue the slippery slope.
Yeah. So from that increasing dependency on alcohol, you go into feelings of guilt.
Yeah.
Guilt is such a double, it's such a, not even a double-edged sword, it's just a horrible place to be, because guilt makes you drink. It makes you need to drink to drown the guilt, but then the guilt of drinking makes you want to not drink, but then you drink because the guilt
cycle.
Of it's just, it's like...
So at this point, you're just constant feelings of remorse, of guilt, because at this point you're just either now after that wedding where you either had one too many drinks, you're now feeling guilty about it, you're feeling guilty about either turning up late at work constantly, so it becomes that. And like Izzy said, the more guilty you feel, the more you feel horrible about yourself, so you need to feel better, then you drink, then you feel worse, then oh my goodness. Hamster wheel. Yes. And then you reach the point where on this curve, I like that it details it like that, because it even talks about how at this point you're unable to discuss the problem because you're still just it's just hitting you a little. You're starting to feel guilt. It's just hitting you a little that there might be a problem, but you're not ready to discuss it. You can only talk about something that you've either accepted or whatever. When you're in full-on denial, you don't even want to hear someone insinuate,
No.
You just keep avoiding it or even just get irritated by it completely.
I think definitely remember that stage. It's not a problem. I'm not talking about it. I'm not even talking about
block people who would start.
Could be like, babe, last night I'm like, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk. Let's not. That's last night. That's last night. Well, that's what happened last night. I don't want to talk about it.
Yes.
Yeah. But and oftentimes this tied into the next part that comes into this curve for me, which is memory blackouts increase.
Oh God.
So I didn't want to talk about it because half the time I didn't remember.
Yeah, so you had to pretend that you just didn't want to hear, but in actual sense, you didn't remember.
I didn't remember.
Right? And then that would get worse, like they would become more frequent.
Yeah.
So how it would start would be like, my goodness, do you remember that night we went partying and we, many of us just even forgot what happened, or I forgot what happened. Then it becomes more and more and more frequent, like almost to the point of every time you drink.
Every time.
Always that last part where you're waking up to check your mobile money, to see either what time you paid, so then that shows you for how long you were at the bar.
That's the time I left. Then you're checking the messages to see if you texted anyone.
Yeah, that's the worst. Or cold.
Worse.
Okay, these days texts are worse.
Yeah, but cold. And I got to a point where I'd have to go very, very slowly and very scared to my window to check if my car was in the parking lot, because I couldn't remember if I drove home or not. I couldn't remember if I parked it or not. I couldn't remember if I knocked somebody in the parking when I was parking it or not. Yeah. Like, I couldn't remember. It was a blackout.
See, now it starts to get, the insanity starts to come in, right?
Yeah.
Remember, at first it was just relief drinking.
Yeah.
And then now onto the next one, drinking just becomes clustered with excuses.
Yeah.
And then here means, when people tell you, hey, last night, man, I had these ulcers, I could not say whatever.
Yeah.
My boss had just done whatnot. So basically, the excuses, and then that leads to, all this persistent remorse that just starts to engulf your mind,
Yeah. And then from there, you move swiftly into the decrease in the ability to stop drinking when others do.
Yeah.
So your friends, you'll notice, or at least I noticed, that people would stop. They would start ordering water, and I didn't want to order the water.
Yeah.
And I would start I'd even start shaming them.
I'd say, I'll just buy for them. I'd be like, maybe it's just because you don't have money. The next round is on me.
Yeah.
Or, at weddings. Everything is or at a function, wherever. It's any people are going home. For me, it's me convincing everyone to go to the next hangout, the next hangout, the next this. I never, ever, ever wanted to reach home. Yeah. Because I didn't want the drinking to stop.
Yeah.
I didn't want that feeling to go.
I didn't want to. And if I didn't go with anyone, if I couldn't convince, I'd go alone. Yeah. On the way home, I'd find a place, sit
now
by
that's
myself.
Like in the beginning, at first when everyone refuses, you will go home, sulking and all. But then as it gets worse, we'll see that later, you now will be okay going to sit by yourself at the bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then this is when the whole, promises and resolutions enter the picture. Okay, because now you've said to realize it's getting bad, and everyone around you is also realizing it's getting bad. So it becomes, this is it. I'm never drinking again. I'm never this, that. I think many of us have done it. Many of us out there are still doing it. This is my very last drink, very last thing. And I feel like the universe always hears that and says, hey, so
are you sure?
Are you sure? By that evening,
you're back.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times you'll also notice, maybe you notice in yourself, maybe you notice somebody else, but definitely something we noticed, and that is true on this curve, is grandiose and aggressive behavior. So grandiose is just thinking very, very big of yourself. Oftentimes this actually is false stories you're making up, where you met Obama, just randomly. You also met him, like,
or
just in
the
case.
whole name dropping in these bars in Uganda.
In Uganda it's the name dropping. Where let me bring it back to maybe you met controversial but MK. So you met him and you're convinced and you're telling everyone you did, and it's tied into aggressive behavior, because you see you're doing that because you feel bad about yourself.
Yes,
you want to feel
inwardly
big.
You've started feeling horrible about yourself, so you have to make sure the outward is
you literally false pretense, like hot air. You're blowing literal hot air. And then when somebody, let's say somebody who knows you perhaps, calls you out on it, aggression. It's aggressive behavior all the way, because you don't want to feel the bad inside.
Yeah.
You want to pretend with the good that you're portraying or the big that you're portraying, and you don't want anyone to call you out on it. Yeah. So you start to see that. And again, right down into the next one, the efforts that Laura mentioned, the promises, the efforts to stop, all of this, just go out the window. Repeatedly go out the window. You just can't control it.
And then together with that, comes the loss of interest. Think about it. For for people who are in active addiction, if you used to enjoy going to the cinema, you used to go for soccer, play badminton, all these other things we do, you know, that I'm really in that phase now. It's like I'm making up for lost time and doing everything. Sometimes people go like, do you have 20 days in a week?
Yeah.
But anyway, all the things that we love doing, we just stop doing. You won't go for that function if you can't indulge properly.
Yeah.
You know, so if it's like a normal corporate, you know, bourgeoisie, whatever, boring function, basically, you just won't turn up.
You just won't turn up.
So basically, just even if that cause meant a lot to you at some point where you would never have missed it,
Yeah.
you just start losing interest, basically, in the things that you love.
That you loved.
Yeah.
And within that, you also start avoiding the people that you love, your family and friends. You start avoiding your family and friends.
Yeah.
Because you don't, first of all, the family and your closest friends usually are the people who will see this first off. Way in the, up here in the curve where we've already come down, they've already started spotting it, already started calling you out, already started being worried, already started pointing out that perhaps there's something going on.
Yeah.
So you start avoiding them because you're not ready to face what they're telling you. You don't want to stop yet, and
at this point you already you can tell you have a problem.
Yes.
You know, you're just not ready to admit it, but you already start to feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you start to feel ashamed in front of them. It's one of the reasons why you start to avoid them. Plus,
Yeah.
remember, to a lot of these guys, you have sworn everything with your whole life. I'm not drinking again. So you can't appear in front of them and be there on soda. You'll be dying because you still want to drink.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so part of that, you know, when you start to, you know, now you're just starting to try and control. Now you don't want to be in front of the people who you can't drink in front of.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Same thing about how, you know, on to the next thing here is the geographical control, right? So, for example, if you used to drink at a bar in Bugolobi, or bars in Bugolobi, and you start telling yourself, this is when you start to realize there's a problem, but you're still in denial, right?
Yeah.
So you start thinking, Bandali is the problem. Bugolobi is the problem. Maybe if I start going to wherever else, maybe let me change the bar. The vibe won't be the same. The barman won't be as cool. They won't give me credit. Or there are people who even move. I mean, I used to, when it would get a bit much, right?
Yeah.
I would then go and spend more time up country. I would then travel. I'd be like, okay, I need to go away. You know, it's just been a bit much. I need to go away.
Yeah.
But as if away doesn't have, you know, in this world, where won't you find alcohol?
Where won't you find
it from the airport?
Yeah.
Or wherever it is, right?
It's right there waiting.
But at this point, you're starting to try and control. You're starting to try and gain control. You're starting to say, okay, maybe if I change this, maybe if I do this.
Yeah, because you've realized you have a problem. So you don't want to, you're not ready to change it entirely. You're not ready to approach that actual problem of the substance abuse, of the alcoholism, but you know you have a problem. So you're like, let me try other factors. Let me see how I can change this to not be the problem that I think I have, but I don't have, but I think I have.
Yeah.
So geographical escapes. I remember those well. I changed location so many times. So some of the things that fall into the family and friends avoidance and kind of actually also changing geographical location, because you know those are people that know you, is the unreasonable resentments.
Yes.
Where you hate people but not really,
or you hate that person because you know everything's just, it's magnified in your mind because they did this, they did that, things which would never have been an issue before your drinking got this bad. You know, so you basically just have unreasonable resentments everywhere. You're just blocking and everything, right?
Everything. No, I have a cousin who I had to she was one of my first amends because I chewed this girl's head off at a function. Like I'm not even kidding. I chewed her head off, and I went so long, like in so much resentment to her, but just because she had been very honest about noticing just how bad my drinking had gotten at a family function, and she had tried to get me out of the function because she did want other family members to notice, and I chewed her out and like stopped talking to her for like months.
I have a whole long list of those. So
I had to make her that first and foremost,
and
like
in
before
recovery,
everybody else.
One of the things that in recovery, one of the things that the counselors and these rehab centers try to get you to do is you have to write a whole long list of all these resentments. People you have resentments for, with.
Yeah.
I don't know. Basically, your list of resentments.
Yeah.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And yeah, for addicts, that is usually a very, very long list. And so they even help you group them, like either for how long or for how.
Yeah.
So you categorize, and then they help you figure out how to make amends.
Yeah.
Because that is really important. Because usually by the time you reach rehab, you have so many unresolved resentments. Like basically what we're saying. And then cue in the next thing. Usually at this point comes money and work problems. Because, of course, at this stage, there's no way you're remaining productive, consistent, responsible at work. Yeah. So you start to have work problems. If it's a business, you start to have issues with your business, your job, either you start getting suspended, fired, whatever it is, you're just not doing as well. Yeah. And then money, of course.
What money are you retaining?
What money are you retaining? What sensible investments are you making?
Nothing, because everything's in the bar. Yes. You must spend it all on alcohol. Yeah. I remember making deals with myself on, do you know what? We can live on this, like the noodles that I have because I started buying noodles like I'm at uni again. We can live on noodles, it's fine. I'm sure they have nutritional value.
Yeah, you'll convince yourself of anything.
Yeah, because you see, if I do that, then I can buy the proper booze, like the proper gin, and not the cheap one that's going to give me health issues, stomach problems. Can you imagine? Like I remember that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was just dividing my money.
Remember,
to buy
by
booze.
the time you reach this stage, your mind, you're just impaired, so you're not making proper decisions. So this just goes even further. Like I said, even just investments, you start to pull out of those investment clubs. You start to all these things. So basically that starts to go downhill. Yeah.
And I think that ties into the next one as well, right down below, which is loss of ordinary willpower. People, I think anybody who hasn't had to struggle with losing willpower in addiction takes their willpower for granted, because they don't know how easy it is for an addict or an alcoholic to just have none, and you don't even know you don't have it. You don't have the will to do, it is controlling you.
Yeah.
You have no willpower to do anything else. I need to get my hair done, but then if I get my hair done, I can't buy my gin bottle. So let me walk around with hair looking like, I don't remember what a comb looks like, kind of thing. Yeah. I just, willpower goes out the window.
Yeah. And interesting, you're talking about doing your hair and everything. The next thing here is the physical deterioration, your health deterioration. Now, in my case, towards the end of my active addiction, I was the heaviest I had ever been. I had gone over 100 kgs. Okay, maybe 100. I'd gone to 100 kgs, which I'd never been, including when I was pregnant. And I looked the worst I had ever looked in every way. Up to now, I don't know. I remember looking at my medical, my results when they came back and asking if it was true. I could not believe that I didn't have any organ failure, damage, whatever. I could not believe, I came out with a complete 100% clean bill of health. Yes. And I just, up to now, it's like jinx.
Yeah.
But really, there was nothing wrong at that point, and I just couldn't believe, because I looked like a walking disease.
Yeah.
you know?
No,
so deterioration of that. So for other people in other forms, what I saw a lot at the center was the very opposite of me, which was malnourished humans, because then they stopped eating, just stopped caring for themselves. You know what I mean? Like those people, how they, especially with drugs, and stuff like that. Skin, even your skin starts to look like cow, your lips, your hair, so basically, physical deterioration.
Oh yeah, it happened to me as well. Same, heaviest I'd ever been, and I couldn't believe it as well. Clean bill of health. I told them to do it twice. I didn't believe them. I was like, surely something's failing, because how? You're right? How?
I think it's in our genes. They're related.
Yeah, we are, but they're related. So, good genes. Hello. Anyway,
so addiction genes, but anyway.
Yes, we also have those. Yes. So the other one is kind of goes together. These two go together: the decrease in alcohol tolerance and the onset of lengthy intoxication. Yes. So basically, you need more drinks to get you there. One, you cannot. The 2 Long Islands that used to get you there, it's now 6. The one bottle of gin is now 4. Like literally, it's just more. And then you're intoxicated longer because you're not trying to sober up.
Yeah.
You stop trying to sober up. And it's not that you don't want the hangover. I know that one of my main excuses was to myself, my justification. I don't want the hangover because I still have to function as a human being, as a normal person. So let me keep going, steady. Let me just steady myself. Yeah. But the truth is, I didn't want to process the emotions that I was just numbing at that point.
Now, but in this case, at this stage, right now, it is decrease in alcohol tolerance. Meaning, like how they say, whatever goes up
must come down.
Just like with dopamine and all that, right?
Yeah.
So in the beginning of this curve, right? Remember, there was increase. Yeah. Right now, you need need a lot more you need a lot to keep feeling, that feeling that you're chasing.
Yeah.
But now at this point, as it starts to decrease, remember this comes with physical deterioration, and now the health issues start to come in.
Yeah.
Basically, now you're back to literally 2 drinks, like 2 beers will just. So what happened now in my case? I've always thought I'm hard.
I stayed hard. Let me not lie. Mine never decreased. This one.
No, in my case, how it started to manifest was literally after 2 drinks, I would have a blackout, and I mean not blackout physical. I'll fall down. No, but I mean like I just wouldn't remember, or the hangovers got worse. Like literally, where I would have 4 cocktails, right, and be able to function the next day. This time 4 cocktails and I would be sick the next day, like really, really sick, So it just started to get worse in that way, meaning my body was tolerating it less.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I just didn't let it get to that level. I quite literally stayed in the constant intoxication.
Or it would have happened if you hadn't gone into
recovery. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, and then, moral deterioration. Now, you can imagine with everything we're talking about, this is a very natural progression, right? With moral deterioration, that's why usually in active addiction, there's a lot of sexual promiscuity. I don't know
risky
all the right words.
Basically risky behavior. Yeah.
And then usually at this stage where, your DOC, as we call it, your drug of choice is alcohol, right? At this point, because of all your risky behavior, you'll end up adding on. That's how people start adding on weed, adding on but it's basically whatever you pass on. That's also because at this point, everything has deteriorated. So you start even hanging out in places you never used to hang out because you're looking for your fellow chronic users, So you'll partake in whatever they're partaking in. And I've seen that, I realized that's also where now everything starts to mess up the mind even more. That's where psychosis comes in, because now the brain that was only used to alcohol, for example, is now taking in other substances, right? Yeah. Or because of all this other, the moral decay, like what we're talking about, moral deterioration, right? Yeah. You're doing way horrible things, just getting into horrible deals. In terms of, let's say, for gamblers, when it comes to like behavior or whatever, you're gambling even more. Yeah. Now, what does that do? It means you're even way more guilty, way more ashamed. Yeah. When you're in that state, then you just start to get depressed.
Yes.
And that's what I mean, like things start to affect the mind.
Yes, the mind.
Now it's no longer just that alcohol, that behavior that you see. Yeah. It's now basically other things have entered the picture.
Yeah. And again, just tied into that on the curve as well, that comes right along with that is impaired thinking.
Yeah.
So impaired thinking, like Laura just said, it's your mind is not right anymore. So small things that used to make sense or you used to do easily, decisions that came,
you become very decisive.
That came normal. And the thing of you hanging out in places and now doing drugs that you used to say never would I ever.
Yeah.
But that's what you're doing, because impaired thinking, you've become increasingly sexually promiscuous when you were a one person your whole life and everyone knew you that way.
And used to judge everyone.
Yeah, used to judge everyone like, man, I can't even do it. Like, how do you even keep them straight? There you are now, you have a black book because you must keep the names vague. So, impaired thinking, it comes with that because it's a disease that works on your mind.
At this point, your mind is getting hijacked.
Yes.
It's no longer you.
It's no longer you. The insanity is set in.
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
And then, continues down to, unable to initiate action. So you can imagine with impaired thinking, you're indecisive, you're what? So you're just there. And that's usually where family and, everyone starts to step in and help you with everything, either helping you with your children, if you're a parent, helping you with finances, helping you with work. Like you just start losing functionality, you're just not productive.
You're not doing anything
anymore.
And of course that all of this impaired thinking, your mind just running away from you, the insanity, it leads to undefinable fears. So everything becomes so scary. And everything becomes doomsday, and everything becomes
paranoia.
End of the world.
Always waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Yes.
And that happened to me a lot. In fact, for me, that was when I started to realize that things had changed, because now it was no longer what? I could tell that things had changed when I started to become very paranoid, very worried. Everything was so intensified. I was just constantly in a state of doom.
Doom. That's the right word.
Always. And usually this is where now all those suicidal, the fantasies start. The ideation. This is when, because you just don't want to be there anymore. You don't want to be here because here is horrible. There's always something bad happening or about to happen and usually this is when now psychosis also starts to kick in. I remember when I was at the center, and for me the whole psychosis thing was mind-blowing. But anyway, so I remember someone coming in and they were still telling me and asking me if the FBI, these movies we watch it, if the FBI was still after them, and do you think they have access to this place, and this is, it's all the things I was saying when reality is here, and so all that stuff starts to check out. For me, that was my biggest fear. For me, my mind, for me, my body was just to carry my brain, that's why I didn't really care so much about what I looked like and what, but my brain, my mind, that one had to remain intact. I was always so scared of losing my mind. For me, generally, if I could sign something, or if any of that stuff happens to me, bye.
No, my fears actually didn't manifest. Mine manifested in now becoming very hyper vigilant about everybody. So if even strangers, someone walks by me and looks at me, and I'm like, they're talking about me, they're thinking about me, they know about this, they know that I was drinking in the car.
That's how people run mad.
So those were my fears of everyone. A person parks next to me in traffic and just happens to glance over. What do they know? Has someone talked to them? Have I met them before? Why? How?
I think they'll be there winking at them. Just so careful. But anyway, yes. So yes, that's a very common stage. And then now vague spiritual desires. So basically, I think this one we've all seen also a lot. It happened to me. Usually, very few people reach this stage of the curve. Firm believers. These are the people that you see stop going to church if they used to really believe in God. You used to read the Bible often. You basically, you can't maintain any good habits when you're at this stage. You really can't.
No.
If you used to be a good father, you can't still be a good father.
No, by this point stage. You just know.
If you used to be a good boss at work, you cannot still be at this stage. You really can't. So all that just starts to fall away.
I vague spiritual beliefs personally, again, same. Always been a church girly, always been gospel choir in high school, led a band, led spiritual scripture union. I was so deep like that. Yes. And then I still am, guys, I'm still deep. And my God is with me. But
even me now.
But I got to the point where I couldn't walk through the doors of a church because I felt ashamed. My shame that was walking around with me from the problem that I was carrying. I couldn't walk into church. I was like, those things where my mom would tell me, God loves you. Why don't you pray? Bring this to God, bring these problems to God. And I'm like, God cannot possibly still love me. You don't know what I've done. You don't know what I'm doing. He knows. So you let it go because you can't handle it anymore. And then now you're reaching the end here because now we're in obsession with drinking. It becomes your alpha and omega, your morning sun and evening star. It's the only thing that matters to you.
This is a stage where you're drinking from morning till you can't drink anymore that day, till you black out. You're only thinking about that. It's the only relief you have. Yeah, so at this point, that's it. Those are the people who, even when they're really sick,
Yeah.
all they need, as
Yeah.
in they'll have more alcohol in their fridge than
Then,
milk,
yeah.
than water, than
and
You're
you're
the
now
last stage is complete defeat and admission. So usually this is when someone gets admitted
Yes.
into treatment or admits themselves, or
Yeah.
basically beyond this stage is if you continue this stage and not get into recovery. Then you get these, illness,
Yeah.
psychosis.
Yeah.
Basically, when
And
they say
death.
someone has run mad from this
Yeah.
or that, or
And
die. Yes.
Yeah.
Death.
Because there's in where I went, the rehab I went to in India, they always used to tell us this disease has two ways out of it: recovery or death.
Yeah. Recovery, death, prisons, there's something else. Prisons, whatnot. Basically, no normal life. It reaches
Yeah.
a point where. So I'll talk about myself. The point that I reached, for sure, I was going to end up in psychosis. I was losing my mind slowly.
Yeah.
I would have lost my business. I would have lost my son for good. I would have, all these things,
Yeah.
right? You reach a stage where you have to choose recovery or those things. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad I chose recovery.
Yeah.
So guys, are we doing a good job demystifying this? We went through all that not just because we enjoy talking about ourselves and what we went through. No. But because we want to, put it out there. If you recognize any of these things in yourself, right now, you can stop at any point in that journey.
Yeah.
You don't have to reach the very end. This is so you can recognize this in yourselves or your loved ones or your friends and be able to help them. And I always believe with awareness, you'll then know the right thing to do. And even have the empathy, the understanding,
the grace,
to not make it
and
worse.
kindness.
Yes, because we don't understand addiction, because many people don't understand addiction. They just go about it the wrong way. We're saying the wrong things to these addicts, making them feel worse, more guilty, or more ashamed, and making them feel even more desperate. And therefore, like you heard us, that makes them drink even more, or partake even more in whatever their substances are. So you end up thinking you're helping, but you're actually prolonging their addiction phase. Like you're just not helping, right?
And
so
I always used to say to my mom, in points where I would respond to her, I'd say, "There's nothing you're saying to me I don't know already."
Yes.
So us the addicts already feel that bad. We already feel all that shame, all that guilt, all that self-hate. We're walking around with it for free.
Yeah. So I know you'll probably ask, then what do we do? Then what do we say? Well, that will come in other episodes. For now, let's just bask in the knowledge of, and just having more knowledge of what addiction is.
Yeah.
All right. And I hope we've done that today.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming along with us on this journey.
Yeah.
And we will see you in the next episode. Reach out to us on any of our platforms, Addiction Unfiltered. If you share your story or a story about a loved one and things like that, we will never post your name. We will not, as we'll keep it anonymous.
It's anonymous.
Yes, we will discuss it in the next episode, but we won't talk about who you are, and we will blur out the parts that maybe we think
are
identifiable, right? So don't be afraid to reach out. We will help in whichever way, refer you to all the right places, and so don't do this by yourselves. We're here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Like, share, subscribe, and keep coming back. Bye.
Bye.